Democrat of California and Republican Congressman Peter Hoekstra of Michigan. Congressman Hoekstra, Iran's role in Iraq right now, it's very complicated. A few weeks ago, we saw the Iranian President Ahmadinejad get the red carpet, warm welcome by the Iraqi leadership, including the Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki. But then the other day, Admiral Mike Mullen, he's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, he said this, and I want to play this clip.
I'm extremely concerned about what I believe to be an increasingly lethal and malign influence by that government and the Quds Force in particular in Iraq and throughout the Middle East. I believe recent events, especially the Basra operation, have revealed just how much and just how far Iran is reaching into Iraq to foment instability.
And the Defense Secretary, Bob Gates, says Iranians, through their efforts in Iraq, are killing Americans right now. What's going on?
Well, I think that's exactly accurate. It has been going on for a number of years.
So why is the Iraqi government so cozy with the Iranian government?
Well, I think they reached out and tried to go to Ahmadinejad to try to influence him to put a clamp on Iran's assistance to these forces in Iraq, including supplying weapons to these forces, very deadly weapons. We believe that they're the ones that have developed the enhanced improvised explosive devices and these kinds of things.
Is the Iranian, based on the intelligence, based on the information you get, I'm not asking you to release any classified information, but based on what you know, is the Iranian involvement in Iraq right now getting worse, staying the same, or getting better?
No, I think it's staying about the same. They've been very active in Iraq, and I think they continue to stay very active in Iraq.
What's your assessment, Senator Feinstein?
Well, my assessment is this, that you have a belligerent and isolated Iran extending its influence. I think Mr. Hoekstra is correct about the equipment that's gone in. I think there's no question that some elements of the Iranian government are also buying businesses in Iraq. They are extending their sphere of influence. We have had no meaningful dialogue with Iran for 30 years. And I have a very hard time understanding why this administration does not try to do so.
Well, what do you want? What do you want the U.S., the Bush administration, Senator, to do?
To make some outreach to the Supreme Leader, not to the President, Mr. Ahmadinejad, but to the Supreme Leader. He is the one and the Council that will control this area, and to have some direct discussions without preconditions. The minute you precondition the discussion, you create the loss of face for the Iranians to sit down and talk and try and see if we can't evolve a meaningful relationship that can keep them out of Iraq, that can use this window of opportunity that's produced by the halting of their nuclear weapons program. That was, as you know, a national intelligence estimate. It has not been contraindicated to this date. So there is every reason to believe there is a window of opportunity to develop a series of proposals, carrots and sticks, if you will. The Iranian economy is not good. But nobody should believe that Iran is Iraq. And it is a big mistake for us to only look at military options when it comes to Iran.
Does she have a point, Congressman?
Yeah, I think it'd be a huge mistake to consider that we would take a military action into Iran. I think she laid out a
But what about opening a dialogue, trying to open a dialogue with the Supreme Leader of Iran?
Well, that was going to be my second point. I believe that reaching out and engaging with Iran, but doing so with Russia, doing so with our European allies, recognizing that they do have contacts into Iran, and engaging in a full-court diplomatic press with Iran is a good thing to begin the process of doing that. We're not going to go into Iran militarily. The senator's absolutely right. Iran is not Iraq, and going in there militarily would be, from my perspective, a huge mistake.
On the Israeli-Palestinian front, I want you to listen, Senator Feinstein, to what President Bush said this week about his efforts. He's trying to achieve some sort of arrangement, some sort of deal between the Israelis and the Palestinians before he leaves office. He offered this assessment this week at a meeting with the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas here in Washington.
I assured the President that a Palestinian state's a high priority for me and my administration. a viable state, a state that doesn't look like Swiss cheese, a state that provides hope.
And now he's speaking right after the former president, Jimmy Carter, had these very controversial meetings with Hamas in the region. Here's a clip from what Carter said.
The problem is not that I met with Hamas and Syria. The problem is that Israel and the United States refused to meet with these people who must be involved.
What do you think? Is Jimmy Carter right?
Who are you asking?
Senator
Wolf?
Feinstein.
I wish he hadn't done it, candidly. I have great respect for President Carter, but he is a former president. And I think to just go in there and meet with a group that is a terrorist enterprise when this administration is making as full a court press as they see fit, at least, to try to bring the sides together is a mistake. I think it creates a kind of unpredictable nature. It's one thing to go and talk to President Abbas and try to work from the Palestinian point of view that way, but to take an entity which is essentially a terrorist entity that's taken over Gaza and try to negotiate something separately, I think is a big mistake, particularly without telling or asking President Bush or the State Department and then going public with it. I think it kind of looks like a rolling marble on the deck of a ship.
Congressman, what do you think?
Well, I think it points out a couple of things. Number one, it points out how weak this president is on a diplomatic front and the loss of credibility that he has had. President Bush. That a former president believes that he can go over there and perhaps negotiate, on behalf or speak for the United States. So it's a loss of credibility of this president. But I think the other thing that you really need to focus on, and this is why I think it was bad for President Carter to go over there. When we go overseas, I was just in Israel 3 weeks ago, we need to send a unified message to the Palestinians, to Hamas, to the Israelis as to directionally where we want to go. As soon as you have a former president going over there with a different message, you start creating additional confusion in a very complicated situation and just makes it that more difficult to get to a resolution that will actually bring us forward into getting peace in the Middle East.
Congressman Hoekstra, thanks for coming
Thank
in.
you.
Senator Feinstein, always good to have you here on Late Edition as well, thanks to you. And still to come, how will the Democratic candidates deal with foreign policy crises? I'll put that question to two top national security advisors to the Clinton and Obama campaigns. Straight ahead, we'll also have a live report from the campaign trail on today's political events. Stay with Late Edition, the last word in Sunday Talk.